Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Wheel Insights, where we bring you inspirational stories from the world of motorsport, both on track and sim racing. I'm Webbo, a professional motorsport commentator. This episode is with Claudia Lance-Jones, a racer through and through, who is used to competing at a high sporting level, but is now switching her attention to motorsport. Let's get on with it. Claudia, welcome. The first question I always like to ask to our guests is, tell me about your earliest racing memory.
Hello, thank you for having me. My earliest racing memory is, in terms of cars, because I've done a lot of a different type of racing, which I'm sure we'll come to. But in terms of cars, I remember quad biking. I did quad bike parties, and I fell in love with it pretty much straight away and just realized I love wheels. And that was pretty much it. My dad took me to the Mercedes-Benz world, saw Formula One cars, and I had, car posters in my room, model cars. So yeah, that's pretty much the earliest sort of I can remember. My first real favorite toy was a car. So it did start pretty early doors.
Fabulous. So, of course, everyone now wants to know which cars were on the posters.
Oh, no, this is where I'm going to get so badly judged. I definitely had a McLaren, a model McLaren that was beautiful. What type, I have no idea. I had a Land Rover police car, which we'll just pretend that wasn't a thing. And then my dream car was a Ferrari. I always said I'm going to save up for a Ferrari, and I think I got to about £400 and was like, you know what? I think it's too expensive.
Yes, indeed. You can buy a scale model Ferrari, maybe, but I imagine your sights were set at something you could get into. So normally I'd move on to how we go into actual racing, but first of all, we did mention some other type of racing. Now, I understand that you are actually an elite level athlete, and you were 3 times British champion.
Yeah, well, I would call myself kind of an ex-athlete now, although racing driving is proving quite physically challenging. But yeah, I from the age of around 7 or 8 through to about 17, pretty much just committed my life to being an athlete and travelled all around the country and went kind of all around the world a bit, just racing and running, doing mostly middle distance, so like 1,500 meters, 3,000 meters, and then cross country. And to be honest, I think it's that really played a role in the mentality I'm bringing into my racing now, because although obviously a completely different sport, I did grow up racing every weekend, and yeah, I do definitely believe it's helped.
And so physically, obviously, I imagine cardio is not necessarily a problem for you, and you're pretty fit that way. But how have you felt the challenges in adapting physically to wrestling a racing car around the circuit, rather than just your own body weight around a muddy cross country circuit?
Yeah, I think that, to be honest, the main thing I found is the mental side of racing, the focus that you have to have, and you cannot zone out. The thing with running is sometimes you want to zone out and just get into a rhythm. But with racing, you can't afford to zone out. Every corner you have to be like, it's your last lap. You cannot afford to zone out. So I find, not necessarily, obviously karting and racing is extremely physical, but I'm used to that. So I enjoy that feeling. But it's the concentration it takes and the small margin for error is definitely something I've had to adapt, and I'm still learning now.
That's really interesting. Because sometimes you hear about the sort of very, very top end of racing drivers who do enter a sort of a focus zone and become almost one with the machine and stop consciously thinking about the car. And I wonder if that's something similar to what you were experiencing when you were running.
yeah, I definitely think that it's something a place I would like to get to within my racing driving, but I'm definitely not there yet. I've only been doing it for 2 years now, so I do sort of have a feeling inside of what I'm aiming for, but I'm still at the point where if I zone out completely, it's not going to end well.
Yeah, indeed. So, what kind of an overlap happened where the running, the competitive running, started to merge with racing cars?
Well, to be honest, there wasn't really an overlap. I stopped running for multiple reasons, but it was I got an illness and it kind of all just fell apart from
Mm,
there. And then I spent 2 years sort of trying to just figure out who I am without being an
mm.
athlete, because obviously growing up I was known as the runner, and you know that's just how I was known, and I didn't really have an identity without it. So yeah, it was a tough 2 years, but I think it was an important 2 years where I learned to be happy with
Mm.
myself. And then just very naturally, it just one day was, I don't know, maybe watching an F1 race or something, and just thought I want to do that, and literally never looked back. I googled my local go-kart track, found it, was there within the week, and was going every week since.
Wow.
So yeah,
So you got the bug pretty quickly in karts, and so when did you decide that that it's time to buy a kart and start, being part of the competitive racing side of things and going from track to track?
I think I'm really glad that I started in the corporate world of go-karting, because I quickly realized that in corporate go-karting, you're given
Mm.
whatever you're given, and you either make it work or you don't. There's no fixing the go-kart, you just got to make it work. So I learned a lot through corporate karting, but you do get to a point where you're just ready for the next challenge. So yeah, I made an agreement with my dad. We found a go-kart, and I've now got a go-kart, but it's been a slow process with, learning how to use it. And my dream is to be able to just wake up one morning and be like, okay, I want to go do some practice at my local track. I'm going to take my go-kart, let's go. But what I very quickly learned was how much it takes to just run a go-kart, let alone race it, at a high level. So it's a learning process, but I think when you love it, it doesn't feel like, a
Yes.
burden. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying
You're doing
learning
your
it.
own race prep.
I'm
Doing
doing,
your
sorry.
own race prep in terms of running the kart in, getting everything ready mechanically.
Well, I'd say that's my goal. At the moment, I'm getting people to help me, and I haven't actually raced it yet. That's my goal by the end of the year, is to have raced it. I'm more just getting comfortable in it, just little things like, am I happy with the seat
Hmm.
position, and such fine tuning things that, yeah, it's like a little project, I guess.
So now I think I sort of crossed paths with what you were up to thanks to the enduro car championship and
Yeah.
your appearance in that. So how do we go from karting to starting to get into full size cars and start getting around the racetracks?
I think I always knew that the karting was going to be my step towards
Mhm.
cars. And to be honest, I have to kind of thank the team I was with, who just encouraged me to just go for it, because yeah, I was very hesitant and saying, "Oh, I'm not ready. I'm still getting used to go karting. I'm not ready. I'm not ready." And they were like, "No, no, trust me. Like, you've done some track days with Formula Woman. You're ready. Just give it a try." And to my great surprise, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I felt quite comfortable. And I rocked up to Cadwell, which is a
Yeah.
very challenging track for your first race, I would have to say. And I don't know, I fell in love with the cars even more than the go-karts, and maybe that's something to do with the fact that I go on, like, 2-hour drives almost, every day that I have a chance, I'll go on a long drive as much as I can. And so, yeah, I feel very at one with a car more so than a go-kart. So yeah, it just kind of happened.
Fantastic. I understand that you were pretty quick off the mark.
Well, I I adapted much quicker than I expected. I'm not very good at taking compliments, but yeah, I guess it did go well, and I managed to be the fastest in my team on literally after 3 sessions of being in the car. So it was all very promising, and I do think I work better in a car than a go-kart.
That's amazing.
For sure.
So, which team was it that you debuted with? Let's give them a shout.
Well, the first one I wasn't in Autotech's car, but they were running us. I was with a lovely guy called Chris. The team was called Subaru, yes. So little twist on Subaru. And yeah, it was me, Chris, and another Chris, and yeah, we made a really good team and really enjoyed the experience. But yeah, we were running under Autotech.
Oh, fantastic! So you're developing good links with the MSB team and scene on the track. Cadwell Park is not an easy place for a beginner to show up and perform well. It's tremendous undulation. It's deliberately built as a test track to test everything out of a car. So I mean, tremendous hats off to you on that one. That's incredible. So. What else have you been up to? I mean, you mentioned very briefly there, you mentioned Formula Woman. So how do you get that kind of an opportunity? That sounds like something that comes to experienced drivers more than people trying to start on their karting and car racing journey.
Well, that's actually the great thing about Formula Woman is it's actually for people like me who are, unsure about where they want to go and how to go about things. And it's literally for seeing how good you are. And you go along to a test day, and I rocked up the first time because I've done it twice. And the first time I did it, I'd only been karting for about a month. And I just rocked up for some experience, get a few laps in a car, get to meet a bunch of people, and I didn't really get anywhere with it. But then I came back last year after having go-karted for a year and, learning a bit more, and you do the competition, which is, out of thousands of girls, and then they take a top 50, and I managed to get into the top 50. And then from that top 50, they do more assessments, and you have a top 10. And I managed to get into the top 10, and I really had no expectations. And the top 2 would basically win a seat in a GT Cup team for the season. And I unfortunately came third by 2/10, which it was confusing. I was really happy because I was like, wow, I never thought I'd get this far. But on the other hand, I was like, if I just turned in a little bit earlier,
Such is life. Such is the harshness of the stopwatch, I'm sure. But it's not something that I imagine you're a particular stranger to. That the cruelty of being so close, so very close. But I mean, absolutely incredible. And I'm sure that then helps not only in terms of providing links to the next step on the ladder, but also I imagine more importantly helps you to start believing in yourself.
That was definitely probably the main thing I came away saying was I have confidence now in my abilities, because before that, you don't really know. With go-karting, everyone was always saying, oh, you're only doing well because of your weight. You're only doing well because you had a good go-kart. And you're a girl, they let you through, which is so not true. But, you don't really know where you're at. And so especially then getting into a car for the first time and then being given that feedback and all of that, it kind of solidified it in my mind that this is what I want to do.
So where is the ultimate goal, or where are the next couple of steps that you feel, and we've talked about going karting more frequently and getting out in the karting championship scene, but where where do you actually want to be aiming at?
I think, in all honesty, I would be the happiest in the world if I could be sat on a rallycross grid in the middle of America or something. That's
Yeah.
probably my goal. I would enjoy doing, say, the World Rally Championships, but I also like, head-on racing. So
Yeah.
to combine rally and racing in one is just, I can't believe it exists. It's just the
No,
cherry on
I
top for me.
completely agree.
It
I
would
mean,
be the dream.
I've spent quite a bit of time gaming on Dirt 2, which has this Rallycross Championship section in it, and I've spent more time doing
Yeah.
that than anything else because it's just so addictive.
Yeah.
It's and I'm awful at it, but it is so much fun. No,
Oh, I don't know how they do it. Honestly, what they
it's a
do
very
is just
aggressive form of
incredible.
motorsport as well, so that must appeal to you in some respect.
Oh, 100%. And then, watching F1 compared to that, where, if someone just touches someone else's wheel, everyone's, the whole world's blowing up. But on that, they're all driving into each other. I
Totally,
think
and
it's
of course,
great.
getting a car sideways in the dirt and the rain and mixed conditions is just tremendous as
Yeah.
well. I'm sure. So yeah, no, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously, we really hope you're able to get into that kind of rallycross end of things, and keep on the positive trajectory. What do you find to be at the moment kind of the
Yeah.
best things about being a racing driver?
I think the best thing is just when you're sat in whatever vehicle and you put your visor down, and it's so cliche and cheesy, but it's so true at the same time, is when it's just you and what you're driving, and you just the whole world disappears, and it's the most incredible feeling, and you hear it time and time again,
Hmm.
and I think it's because of how true it is. That is the best part about motorsport to me. There's no feeling like it. And then on top of all of that, you get to meet all sorts of people, travel to all sorts of places that you never would go to before. So yeah, what's the best part about motorsport? Well, driving, in
Driving
my
and
opinion.
that fabulously kind of lonely experience of shutting the world out, and everything's just the
Yeah,
next apex. And yeah, it's so much fun. Absolutely.
yeah.
So, what kind of range of vehicles and circuits have you actually got your hands on and got to enjoy?
Um, I'd say, well, the fastest car I've driven around a track was with Formula Women. It was their I think it was a 230i or something like that. That was a very fast car. I really enjoyed driving that. But my favourite car that I've driven, and it was also with Formula Women and Fox
Yeah,
Motorsport, was their Ginetta, just because it was a sequential. And for me, there's nothing more satisfying than changing gears of a
yeah.
sequential. So yeah, that's
Fantastic. So, I
probably
mean,
the
the Ginetta
best.
is a tremendously popular kind of motorsport ladder car to drive and enjoy. So um,
Yeah.
I hear that quite often from people that the little Ginettas are bags of fun. So um, where have you had the most satisfaction? Like a combination of circuit, car, performance, maybe even corner, uh, so far on in your experience?
I would say driving the KA around Cadwell, uh, going through, I don't actually know the
Mhm.
name of the little S's going down. It was, yeah, that was when I felt most like at one with a vehicle and a track. And I think partly was because of my lack of experience. I didn't really know what could
Right.
go wrong, so I really went for it, and I'm glad, to be honest, because I got the most out of
Amazing.
Cadwell
So,
for sure.
you haven't had kind of a, a, a big accident yet? You have?
Oh, I have. I did. It was actually, oh, it was big. Um, yeah, I mean, we've replayed the footage. It was going. Oh, I've forgotten the name. Forgotten the name of it now. It's like one of the famous bends at Cadwell going down the hill. Gooseneck. Yeah, just going over Gooseneck. We watched the footage. I was doing the same thing, lap after lap after lap. And then on one lap, the car just decided sideways and went straight into the barriers at about 70, 80 miles an hour. And that was it. That was it. The front end of the car was just mangled. It was grim. But yeah, they always say like it's good to get a crash done because then you know your limit and you know what to do next time. And yeah, well, I got it done in my first race, so I like to think that.
So you obviously have had that big moment, and then you straight back out racing, or was there a point where you had to sort of start thinking, is this for me?
No, I was the same in running. When things went wrong, if I did a bad race, the first thing I'd want to do was redo it. It's almost like I'm in denial that I'm like, no. Let's just restart that memory and I'll do it right this time. So
Totally.
We've got to delete that very quickly.
I think I know the answer to this question, but do you believe in natural talent, or do you think it's ultimate performance is more about hard work and crucially kind of practice time?
So a saying we always had in running was, what about when talent works hard? And I think that it's a combination of both, isn't it? You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're lazy with it, then you're not obviously going to get anywhere. So I do believe in talent, but I also believe in hard work, and you have to do both or it's not going to get anywhere, because especially in motorsport, like, you have the talent to get around the track, but if you don't work hard off the track, building sponsors, building your brand, then
there's no next race coming. Yeah.
So yeah, I believe in natural talent.
Absolutely. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about how that journey is going in terms of that off-track race preparation. Are you someone who likes to practice in the sim, or are you spending the majority of the time organizing equipment, making sure that you have the best support possible before you get back on track?
I do like the sim. Well, I do like the sim, and I have fun on the sim. I don't know if this I should really say this, but I get bored on the sim. It's exciting and fun, but I think everyone would agree it's just not the same. If I had a choice between going for a long drive in my car and going on the sim, I'd choose a long drive in my car, just because it's more like the real thing. But in terms of what I do when I'm not on the track, yeah, it's usually I'll be cleaning my go-kart, or I'll be organizing my next race, or just always staying busy building. I've started making flyers now to give to sponsors, because I haven't actually approached anyone yet for sponsorship. But yeah, that one of the great things is that, if I'm not go-karting in my own go-kart, I'll be rental go-karting. And then if I'm not doing that, then I'll be in a car. And if I'm not in a car, then I'll be on the sim.
Absolutely.
So it's just like spinning plates, really.
Absolutely feel that. I imagine that the adrenaline is something that as an elite sports person is a big part of it for you. And I think if you come to the sim after track racing or in partnership with it, when you're used to that thrill of the speed, that danger element, I can definitely identify that it's something that potentially feels a little flat.
Yeah, just knowing that you can just restart if something goes wrong kind of kills it, which it shouldn't. Like, when I'm in a car, the last thing I want to do is crash, but the idea that I could, I think, is what makes it so exciting.
So have you experienced any setbacks, any obstacles so far on your journey?
I think the main thing for me has been, I'm not a natural networker. I very much like to keep to myself, head down, train, and then race, just like I did with running. But obviously, you can't just do that with motorsport. So, yeah, I'd say, as with everyone else, the main thing is the money and the funding for all of it. I'm kind of trying to just go as far as I can without any help, mostly just because I just don't really enjoy going up to people and asking them for money.
It's
Just
difficult. It's
doesn't feel
difficult
right
in
to me, but
any part of
I
life.
guess partnerships.
For someone who likes to, I guess the old phrase is "do your talking on the track," as it were. But unfortunately, you've got to get on that track, and you need to be given
Yeah,
that kind of that opportunity to talk, as it were. So yeah, getting mixing
exactly.
networking, getting out to exhibitions, social events, things like that. Yeah, I can as a natural introvert myself, I can absolutely relate. But it is a crucial factor if if you want to get that move forward. And of course, I guess sponsors also, they want to know that if they want you for a particular event, or they want you to talk to their staff or their team, that you can do that, and so how are you going to
Yeah.
how have you planned to kind of overcome that natural reluctance, as it were, and what happens next? What kind of advice are you getting?
Um, what I've obviously been talking to a
Yeah.
lot of people about, how they've acquired sponsors, etc. And I think sort of, I'm not set in one way, but the rough idea I have in my head is that I'm going to get to a point, I'm going to get as far as I can funding it
Mm,
myself
mm,
to a point where I would sponsor me. If I didn't know me and I looked at myself, would I sponsor me? And at this point,
mhm,
if I didn't know me, I wouldn't sponsor me because there's not enough to show. So I know deep down that, as do most racing drivers, that I've got what it takes. And, if you really looked at it through all the details, you could see my progression and
mm,
how it's
mm,
going well. But sponsors obviously don't have time to look at that. So I just need to get, like a podium or something in a car that is just that quick grab of a sponsor. So that's really my goal at the moment, is to just get myself to a point where I've won something that will get them to look. Because it's hard to, you can go and ask them once,
mm, mm,
and if they say no, it's quite hard to then go back again and say, but look at me now. It's better to kind of go in confident, knowing you've
mm.
got a selling point. So yeah, I'm just kind of biding my time
Yeah,
until I'm
yeah,
happy
I
with the
definitely,
portfolio I've
hear
got.
you. I mean, from an outsider's point of view, that even just the most cursory glance at your social media, your excellent website, um, it tells me that you mean business, and you do have quite a lot to shout about. You've got achievements out there already, and I think you can believe in yourself, and I think you can believe in your ability to attract the to attract sponsors already. In my personal opinion, I don't think there's any need to wait any longer. I think people want to find. I think you know
Really?
corporate sponsors, motorsport interested companies, and maybe one man bands, or family businesses. They want to attach themselves to someone and find a story arc to follow, and to say, I was there for Claudia right at the start, and we've
Yeah.
taken her from this point to RallyCross, and we've been on her helmet ever since, and I think companies are really attracted by that. So yeah, I think that would be my kind of my little pushback, little challenge for you there, because I do think you can. But yes, absolutely
No, I think that's very
check
kind
out
of you.
Claudia's website and social media presence as well. I'm sure you'll be documenting all of your achievements, and we will on the podcast be making sure that we check in and see how you're getting on as well. So what's your next step for you in racing?
Oh,
What's
thank you.
the
Well, I really appreciate that. Um, Next step, I would really like to. I love endurance racing, but I would really like to get into some sort of sprint racing. So I've got a few. I've got my eyes on a couple of opportunities, possibly with Formula Woman, or possibly racing around Europe in
nice?
electric minis. I think it's called Next Gen, um, and yeah, so I've got my eyes on a couple of championships that I am very keen on, and I'd really like to race abroad. I think that would also attract sponsors.
Yeah,
Being able to get their company out in different countries, I think would be really amazing. So, yeah, I think it's just a case of stepping it up a bit from club
absolutely.
level
Well,
to the
that sounds
next
fantastic. So
abroad
we
level.
fingers crossed that you do manage to get there. I mean, you know, what haven't we covered, or do you have anything uh, additional that you want to talk about in terms of the racing side of things, or how the pieces have come together for you to get you here, and where you feel like you can explore next?
Um, I'd say maybe I think something I
Mm,
perhaps didn't know, and I wish I had known, was to just not always rush into things. When I first started, obviously people constantly offering you a race or this or that, and I kind of said yes to
right.
all of it, and then before you know it, your money's run out, and you've just done a whole bunch of races, but they haven't got anywhere. So I think the main thing I've learned, and if there's anyone out there who's listening to this and is just starting out, I just say
Mm,
plan ahead. That was something I didn't do and have now
yeah.
learned.
So what kind of advice
And
rings around your
yeah,
head most often?
that's probably the main thing.
What has been the stickiest piece of advice you've received?
Um, Sometimes I do think that the focus can be on the wrong things in motorsport. Like I used to train this little girl who is doing go-karting at a very high level now, and when I was going to all these karting rounds at, Wilton Mill and PFI and stuff like that, what I noticed was all the focus was
Mm,
on,
mm,
like setting up the kart, getting the best pieces on the kart, the best engines and all the karts, and there was not a lot of focus on the kids and how they were driving and their lines and their pedal work and their steering input. And I just found it so crazy that all this money is going in and then they're going, oh, I can't work out why they're not doing well. And I look at the kid and I'm like, well, it's quite clear that they're turning in way too early for turns 1, 2, and 3. So I think my advice to anyone, I guess, who's just starting out is focus on your driving first and then look at the go kart, because the go kart and the setup, or the car and the car's
mm,
setup,
mm.
will give you a few tenths, but your
Yeah,
driving could give
absolutely.
you
Racecraft,
seconds.
race
And
management,
that's something
picking your
I've definitely
moments,
learned.
all of those things that do come eventually when you've got enough hours in the seat. But absolutely, yeah, it's about having somebody in that position to actually identify that. I think that's fabulous advice, and I guess we could add driver coach to your list of credentials as well now.
Really.
Well,
I
Claudia, it's been an
don't know
absolute
about
pleasure,
that.
and I know that our listeners will really get behind your story and be looking out for your next achievement. So, thank you so much for being with us today, and yeah, we look forward to seeing how your future develops. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
I really enjoyed talking to Claudia, and I'm going to keep track of her progress. I'm sure she has the determination to go all the way to Rallycross. I'm delighted to say that episode 1's Mathieu Gauthier-Thornton has indeed won his CSP2 championship, making it a double win with his teammate James Clark, the champion of CSP1. I'm hearing that the team are planning to convert MGT's car to compete for the CSP1 class next season, so it sets up a mouth-watering prospect of a head-to-head push for the 2024 title for Phantom Racing with Vision Motorsport Engineering. As for me, well, I thought my on-site work was complete for the year, having taken in Anglesey, Donington and Snetterton tracks for club racing. But I had to make this invitation work. I was offered the chance to attend the final day of the Williams Esports team training event at the F1 factory as the host of the live coverage. We did a full tour of the lounge, which you can see clipped on their Twitch, or I reposted on my YouTube channel, as well as some fun races, team building. We got to try their rigs, and may have had a look around the F1 museum too. It was a really great day, and the guys were all very generous. They even had my commentary playing on the big screen as I arrived. I also managed to get some one-on-one in-person time with drivers Daniel Lafuente, Josh Ladd, and Will Lewis. I have also started to help out with the Digital Autosport of Ukraine organisation, celebrating their 32nd Independence Day with an international invitational race, which was a great privilege and very enjoyable. Keep an eye on their YouTube channel, as well as my new league, Zera Esports, on Twitch for some very entertaining racing so far. You can find me at WebboRed5 everywhere. That's WEBBORED and the number 5. If you have suggestions for this podcast or for paid commentary, promotional, voiceover or similar opportunities. Until next time, race fans, this is your checkered flag.